Hi guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's September 21st, 2024 here, of course, with Elijah Weintraub, my co-host.
How are you doing, Jim?
Um,
And
good
it's the
Eli, good.
21st of September, and you know what that means? You got to listen to Earth, Wind, and Fire's September. Because do you
Okay.
remember the 21st night of September?
And it's also the last day of summer, I believe.
Yeah, I believe you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
anyway,
get your
we
summer
got a
in.
lot of stuff to talk about, and of course, we always start off our show with the monologue, and I have one, of course, for us, and that's sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summer Hill, New York. And I guess Eli, this is kind of just a pet peeve of mine, right? We're in the heat of pennant races, and playoff spots are going to be determined. There's 11 games left, and so forth. But something that just drives me crazy, like the Yankees, for example, they clinched the playoff spot the other night, and they have this celebration with champagne, jumping up and down like they won the World Series. And I'm going, you haven't won anything yet. So my point is this: if I was the manager of a baseball team and we made the playoffs, hey, great. And then we go into the playoffs in the first round or second round, and then you get to the championship series. I still wouldn't have popped a bottle of champagne, because until you win that thing, really winning a spot into the playoffs where what, eight, 10 teams, make the playoffs. I just think it's overkill. And, especially for the Yankees in this situation, I mean, each team is going to do it. But it was more particular to me that I thought the Yankees were going to take that and say, we haven't won anything yet. So let's hold off on popping champagne and pretending like we just won the World Series. I know it sounds a little trivial, but it drives me crazy. And all the teams will do it, but what's your thought? Are you pro champagne just by making the playoffs?
Well, you shouldn't be opening that champagne bottle until you win the World Series, and I 100% agree with that. I'm so glad you brought it up as the monologue because that is a great point. Why is it that every single team parties so hard like they won the World Series? They just made it to the playoffs. They could lose. They could do so much, and they're partying in the USA like nothing. And I
That's
mean,
my
listen,
point.
don't get me wrong. I understand you need to celebrate sometimes. It's such a long road. They play over 100 games a year. I get it, it's a long road. You want to celebrate. Hey, you actually accomplished something. But to spend that much money to just drink, to be dumb, to celebrate like that is not necessary until you win the World Series.
Yeah, it's a little premature. That's my point. That's all.
I 100% agree with it.
And I'm sure there's some coaches out there that would feel the same way, but I never see it. I guess maybe the players have too much say in it. But if I was the manager, I'd say there's no celebration in this locker room, period,
Yeah,
until we
100%.
win it all. Anyway,
100% agree.
so let's jump into Major League Baseball, because, like I said, we're back to down to 11 games left in the season, give or take one or two for rainouts and so forth. And we got some
Right.
really, really good races, right? So
We do.
the Yankees kind of finished up. The Orioles kind of been slumping a little bit, and they let their, get
They get their
down. So
guard
now
down,
they're four games out. I mean, they'll make the playoffs as a wild card team,
but they won't
but
be
they're not
making it
going to
as a
win. Yeah,
the
they're
bye
not
week.
going to
Right.
win the division, right?
Right.
And believe it or not, one of the best races in baseball, which we always talked about what kind of a junky division it is the American League um, Central, right? With Cleveland has kind of been leading that all year long. They got 90 wins, just like the Yankees.
Yeah.
Um, and right on their heels is the Kansas City Royals, and you could basically attribute that to basically one guy. And
Pretty much.
unfortunately, with Aaron Judge in the year that he had, and Juan Soto as well, but this Bobby Witt Jr., we talked a little bit about him last week. He's an exciting player to watch, and that's the kind of guys that you want to get into the playoff mix. You
100%.
want to see these really. I mean, any other season, this kid would be a surefire lock to win MVP. And
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, but other names out there. Let's look. Shohei Ohtani, 6 for 6 the other day, 3 home runs, 10 runs batted in. I mean, if you can't say, and you can't argue this one, Shohei Ohtani is right now one of the best players out there, and he is better than Aaron Judge, and he is on the verge with the Dodgers to winning it all. They just clinched the playoffs along with the Phillies and the Brewers in the National League. They're fighting. They're going to win. They have a best shot of winning the World Series, if you ask me for my opinion, my hot take for the day. In winning the whole World Series. And another big surprise there too, Texas Rangers are looking on to be eliminated. They will not be back-to-back champions or fight in that playoff race. That was a big shock to see. It was a big turn of events that we were seeing here. And it's very shocking. And Juan Soto, 200 career home runs, one in every ballpark he has had a home run in. So congratulations to him. That happened the other day. A big notable accomplishment from there.
Yeah. And it looks pretty much like we talk about the American League West. We look at that, and that's not really an exciting division, but you do have the Astros leading the division, right? And they got off to a very, very slow start. They were, 10, 12 games under 500, and they systematically came back. I mean, there's obviously a lot of talent on that, and that's, always been known, quote unquote, as the Yankees' nemesis, right? In the playoffs. So that's very exciting. And then in the National League, and I got to give some perspective on this, because over the course of the season, we basically sat here and we did our baseball preview. And I said the Mets are just an average team. And I stand by that until things started to change. You got guys like Mark Vientos, who's just come basically out of nowhere and shown what kind of he's a major league player. That means, Brett Beatty's got no more shot. He was supposed to be the prize prospect for the Mets, and this guy Vientos has stepped in. The year that Francisco Lindor is, and again, all of the sports pundits, and they know who they are, were panning this decision. He was an overpaid contract and blah, blah, blah. And he's had, what could be considered a top 3-4 MVP type season for the Mets. So things changed a lot for the Mets. It wasn't just like all of a sudden the same cast of characters. We know that Alvarez is going to be a superstar catcher for the Mets. Pete Alonso starting to hit. But also the key with this Sean Manaea and David Peterson, so they got two number one starters that has propelled them to go from a 500 sub 500 team to a team that's in the mix, and they're gonna make the playoffs.
Absolutely.
So it's been quite a turnaround. So all the Met fans early on in the season, I think
they were disappointed. They were struggling. They knew they were going to be out. And now all of a sudden, they're on the verge to potentially winning a World Series and playing in the playoffs. That's a shock to say, but it's true. Can you believe it?
I know. And but we say this all the time, that it's a 162 game season. Things can happen along the way. We saw it with the Yankees. They got off to a historic start, and then they started to
backfire down,
slump a little bit, and they've kind of been just keeping afloat. But when you got guys like Garrett Cole, who went and pitched 9 innings last night, and I still think he's one of the best pitchers in the game. So things are primed for both New York teams to make the playoffs. Let's see if the Mets can hang on. I mean, they're battling the Braves. They're actually battling a couple of teams, right?
They're battling the Mets. Ahead of them are Diamondbacks and Padres, who are ahead of the Mets. And underneath them is the Braves, Cubs, and Cardinals, which the Cardinals are set to potentially be eliminated after a few more games. Could tonight be the night? We'll see. But they're in the spot.
Yeah. And let's talk about a couple individuals. And you're right about, but the big discussion surrounding Ohtani and whatnot, we can't deny he's one of the best hitters in the game without question.
100%.
I mean, nobody would dispute this.
Correct.
But people say should a full-time DH be considered a MVP candidate? And I say in this case you can't deny it. I mean, 50 home runs, The 50 stolen bases, it seems a little deceiving to me. I'm not even sure why he was stealing bases when they were up by 20 runs the other night, but obviously
Right.
it was to get to the 50-50 thing. But he is, I don't have a problem with him winning the MVP because of the dominance at the plate. But a lot of people are going to say, well, guys like Lindor, he plays every day at shortstop. He's kind of on a little injury thing right now, but he'll be back.
Right.
So those are what are your thoughts? Do you think a full-time DH has a legitimate claim to be an MVP?
I think so. Look what he's done. Look what Shohei Ohtani's done as a DH. Not pitching,
Mm-hmm.
not playing. He's DHing. He has had again, as I mentioned the stats before, 6 for 6, 3 home runs and 10 runs battled in the Marlins game just the other day. He over 50 on the home run mark. I 100% think he is in potential for MVP candidate. Because right now, you can't even say Aaron Judge because he hasn't lived up to the expectation that we want him to do. And that would be your other top candidate. And that would be from the American League side. So if you had to choose the American League versus the National
Well, I don't know.
League, 100% consider DH Shohei Ohtani in it.
I don't know what do you mean that Judge hasn't lived up to it? He's had a pretty damn good year.
I know he has a good year. I'm saying there was some times where he slacked off. Like there was a period of time after
Yeah.
August, there was like a little bit of like a break. Like he wasn't,
Yeah.
The run that was supposed to be as long and successful slacked off towards the end. That's what we're trying to get
Yeah,
at.
a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Comment coming in. Good morning to all from Eric. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Eric. Pride of Westchester, Pennsylvania, loyal listener, and we certainly thank him. And listen,
That's what I was
Eli,
thinking, by the way. Yeah.
we would love to get some comments from
Absolutely.
our
Comment
listening
on
audience
YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're
about this
watching.
very point.
Absolutely.
So send us an email at sportswithmono@gmail.com. Comment on the show, whatever. When we get comments and emails, we do discuss them. But it's an interesting point, and baseball, like I said, it is a long season. But
and it's coming down to the wire. And
Yep.
Ohtani looks like he's the favorite to win the MVP. And I don't care if he's just DHing, he is in potential of winning that home run. And he MVP, he's done it all season, and there's no question.
Well, he gets the National League, and Judge gets the American League. I think that's
100%.
pretty clear.
Fair to say.
Yep. All right, Eli. So what's up next? College football.
Let's go to college football, and then we'll go to high school.
Okay. So college football, we had a kind of a changing of the guard, right?
Pretty much.
Georgia was number one. Now Texas is number one. Texas looks good.
Yep.
There's a quarterback named Manning waiting in the wings for Quinn Ewers to go to the NFL draft next year, and he had an outstanding performance. So,
and he'll be playing tonight. He will be starting QB tonight versus Louisiana Monroe.
Yeah, and that's what we've spoken about that before. These quote unquote cupcake games. That's there's no chance that the University of Louisiana at Monroe has any chance of knocking off the number one team. So
you never know. Anything's possible, but yeah,
it happens, but it's not likely it's going to
happen. That's 8 p.m. on ESPN Plus if you're interested.
Right. I think another really big game today is Tennessee at Oklahoma.
7:30 ABC.
Yeah, they both have really good quarterbacks. That should be an interesting game. Yeah,
that's where game day is today. Game day's in Oklahoma.
Yeah, I figured it would be. Another interesting game, though, and it's kind of funny to even say this, but we're talking about this as a Big Ten matchup with USC and Michigan.
Wow! Right? All right.
Because now USC is in the Big Ten, and normally growing up, I was accustomed to watching probably, I'm going to say 7 to 8 Rose Bowl games with Michigan versus USC, and now it's a conference game. Yeah.
It's crazy to think about, but yeah, it's true.
Right. Isn't that something, though? I mean,
absolutely.
The whole landscape of college football with all moving from divisions and conferences.
100%. It all changes.
It changes. You know what? It's not bad that it changes some of the traditional games. It's going to create new traditional games. And, 20 years from now, we'll look back on this and say, hey, it was all for the best. The Big Ten
Absolutely.
is dominating, and and also another interesting game today. You got 2-0 Rutgers is at Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech's 2-1. So Rutgers is they got to make their mark at some point if you want to be a
Yes.
legitimate contender in that conference, which is a tough conference. They're gonna have to turn up the recruiting and keep these players at home. It's something we've said for many
Many
years.
times. Yeah.
Um, so this is a big game for them today. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, but that was unusual to see. The fact that Georgia didn't lose, but Texas won impressively. That
Yeah.
they move up to number one, but don't dismiss University of Georgia and
Right.
the impact that Kirby Smart has, and he's a full believer in this Carson Beck, and they're going to be in the mix too. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so it's been really good, and there was an interesting game last night. I like this little Friday night thing they got. ESPN has last night was
Like two of them. Yeah.
Syracuse and Stanford.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and Stanford wins on a last second field goal. And, Syracuse, I was talking to somebody the other day, big Syracuse supporter. They like what they got going. They like the new coach. They like the quarterback that they got from Ohio State. And
Right.
they're one of the teams that benefited the most from this portal and nil and all that
All that
kind of
stuff.
thing.
Right.
Yeah. And I got one point I want to bring up before I'm going to bring it up under random points, but it's an interesting fact relating to college football and nil, and I'll
Okay.
bring that up a little bit later.
Sounds great. And we'll move right along now to high school football and high school sports.
Yes, so let's get your St. Mary's hat on, and Eli's got the big smile coast to coast because his team won last night.
Yes, it did. Big win last night. 43-6 the final over Weehawken. Weehawken gets the final 6 points of the game with the last 30 seconds of the game. Glad they did get some points on the board there. Phenomenal game. And I do want to correct something for those who did watch our broadcast. We mentioned it was Nick Fortunato with that interception. It was now Thomas Mazzina, the ruling. They gave us the wrong information for the player. So it's Thomas Mazzina. So if you watch last night's game, it's Thomas Mazzina with the interceptions. We'll be clarifying that on the channels later on. But just if you watched last night, that's who had the interception. But overall, phenomenal game, and it was awesome to see.
And one of our loyal listeners, and I know we'll be listening to the show today, Stephen Connors. He's big supporter of Park Ridge, and I know Park Ridge.
Yep, they're going down. They going down in the beginning, but then they went up again.
Yeah,
that's what.
Didn't they play St. Mary's?
Yes, and they lost
ago?
20. And they lost 35-0.
St. Mary's beat them.
St. Mary's beat them 35-0.
Oh, okay. Because he always mentions, he goes, you got to bring up Park Ridge, and it's a public school, and we know it's not the super conference like we're
but they are a great team overall. But this year was not there. They started 35-0, and then they outmatched their opponents. They had, I think, Wallington and Bogota. They won 35-0. I think it was reverse, if I'm not mistaken. So they really like a change of events, and it goes to show how powerful St. Mary's is. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah. Until they meet a team like St. Joe's or Bergen Catholic.
I know. That's a different argument for a different day, Jim.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure we talked about it.
All right.
All right, Eli.
I'm dead to the big boys.
Yeah, let's move on to the big boys in the NFL. And I know you have something waiting in the wings to show us.
Yeah, so last week Mr. Jim didn't do so great on the picks. I went 2-2, 1-3. Here's the overall standings chart for where Jim and I stand, and the crown goes to me for this week. Right now, overall 5-3 is where I stand. Jim at 3-5. We'll be updating that whole week, and when Jim gets a win, he'll get the crown that's above my head. So when he gets ahead in the standings overall, he'll get that nice fancy crown.
Wow, this is shocking.
5-3.
I love it though. It's actually fine. I'm good with it because our picks. Yes, I did have a bad week last week. I had Baltimore, which was one of the biggest surprises. They go in and they lose to Las Vegas at home, so they're sitting at 0-2.
Yep.
Houston seems to be moving along.
Yep.
They're a good football team, I think, and Pittsburgh and Denver. Now Denver, that's a team that
Whoa. That's disappointing me.
what?
Denver.
Yeah, me too. I'm a little surprised by it, to be honest with you, because of the whole getting rid of Russell Wilson, and Sean Payton wasn't a believer in him, and now he
But
comes in. And I've been a Bo Nix guy since Auburn and Oregon, and I just
right.
don't know I don't know if they just don't have the talent around them, or it's a little early in the season to write off Bo
I
Nix in
think it's
Denver.
potentially the coach. Because if you're telling me that they got rid of Russell Wilson, they started a new guy, 50-20 was one of the scores in last year's game. And then you're telling me that Bo Nix is not the answer. What is that trying to tell you? Maybe it's the coach, maybe it's Sean Payne, or maybe it's
Mm,
everybody needs to go. Maybe that is the reason. But another issue too is you also have to take note of Russell Wilson as well. Yeah, he was also definitely a problem because if he was definitely that good, even though following, he was injured, but even though if he was really that good, why wouldn't he be the starter by now? We're entering week number 3 in the NFL, and he has yet to start a game despite his injury. I understand week 1 he was out with the injury. That's fine. But you're telling me now he is benched, hasn't had an opportunity to play. What does that tell you about this player then? If we're having Justin Fields playing, and right now they're looking good.
yeah, well, this is a big question mark. That was a big gamble getting rid of Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph, and
Correct.
starting from scratch with two guys. One who's a proven guy, but maybe on the downside of his career, and the other guy, still a big question mark. He hasn't developed like a
He hasn't
CJ
been the player
Stroud
that
and
we
all those
wanted.
kind of yeah. So
Right.
yeah, that's a good question. Now, um I've always been a Sean Payton fan. I know he lives and
Right.
dies for this game, but maybe Bo Nix is not the answer. I still think he's going to stick with him. I think he's going to develop into a good player in this league. Um, but on the other hand, when you look at certain quarterbacks, right, we keep a lot of teams, a lot of pundits, if you will, keep saying that Justin Herbert is one of the top quarterbacks in the league, but yet
Right.
they haven't won anything either. So I was quick to at least acknowledge that Daniel Jones is not going to bring a Super Bowl to the Giants, but I still
Guy
think he's got
Coriano just posted America's team, Dallas
to
Cowboys,
Pittsburgh.
and
Uh,
eh,
no, that according to him,
it's the
America's
Steelers.
team is the Pittsburgh Steelers. So
Really?
don't
Okay.
misconstrue it as
All right. Well,
America's
apologies, Mike
team.
Brown. I know America's team as Dallas, not the Steelers. So I'm going to need an explanation on that one, please.
Well, any Pittsburgh Steeler fan will feel the same way our sponsor does, and he's going to go down with the ship one way or the other.
All right. Well, I need an explanation though. So if you want to give us a
Right.
comment, we'll appreciate it.
All right. So a
But
couple other
well,
things
listen,
that yeah.
look at
Go
the
ahead,
Jets
Eli.
Patriots the other day. Patriots were beat Cincinnati, almost beat Seattle last week, forcing overtime. Seattle won 23-20. And now you look at the Patriots, they put up 3 points on Thursday night versus the Jets. How is that possible? I was blown away. I mean, listen, even if the Patriots were to lose that game against the Jets, at least score a little bit more than just 3 points, considering you just beat Cincinnati, you forced overtime in Seattle, and that's what happened. That is really mind blowing. It truly is.
Well, then that begs the question. Did they overachieve in the first week or two, or when I watched the game Thursday night, and yeah, I'll give credit. Rodgers had a fairly decent game, but
Correct.
when I looked at the overall performance of New England, and I'm going, boy, this is not a contending team, and I think
No,
it's going to be a long, long season for them.
but it was shocking because if you went in there, beat Cincinnati, almost beat Seattle, forcing overtime, I thought at least you were going to have an opportunity to score more points like that versus the Jets, and we could consider you. But the fact that 3 points was the final from the Patriots side, it was absolutely disappointing in my book, at least. I was disappointed.
Yeah, but I wasn't really surprised because going into the
No,
season, it's sentimental because I remember Gerard Mayo as a player. I was happy that he got picked to be the coach. They just need
Yeah,
they just don't have a big talent base right now. So
that's
I
true.
think it's more that they overachieved against Cincinnati, and ultimately, I think they're going to have to turn the keys over to Drake May. I mean, what do
Right.
you have to lose if you're not going to be a contending team? Give this kid who was your number one pick, give
Right.
him an opportunity, and let's see how Mayo handles that situation out there.
Yeah. And let's go to last week one more time again, Jim. We had over about 6 to 7 different upsets all in last week. Miami
Yeah,
beat Bill Buffalo beat Miami 31-10 on Thursday night. But Jacksonville lost to the Browns 18-13. Nobody saw that coming. The
yep.
Vikings beat the 49ers 23-17. Saints beat the Cowboys 44-19. 44-19. I'll get to Dallas in just a moment. Detroit loses to Tampa Bay 20-16. Indianapolis loses to Packers 16-10. Raiders beat the Ravens 26-23. And the Falcons beat the Eagles by a point and 22-21 the final on Monday Night Football. And the Chiefs win by the referees. I'm going to go back to the Dallas first, and I'll get to my thoughts on the whole Chiefs stuff. Dallas, I'm 100% disappointed. You go in there, you blow out Cleveland in week 1. You go to week 2, and you lose 44-19. That was disappointing, and you just paid Dak Prescott to be your highest paid quarterback. That is ridiculous, and I've told you that is a not deserved contract, and he did not deserve to stay in Dallas. But yeah, look what he did last week, 44-19 at home, not even away, at home versus
Yeah,
New Orleans.
I know. I
And
know.
now we'll go to the Chiefs 1 second. Before we'll get your thoughts on the Cowboys and the Chiefs. The Chiefs, they won by the referees. I'm gonna say it, and I don't care. They won by the referees. In the initial shot, they didn't show it that it was a pass interference. I thought the Chiefs win by the referees again. It's always that one play that gives it to them, and they win again by a field goal. I was just blown away, Jim. I really am. I just think that it's always
I don't know.
something like
I
that.
think
I
I
don't know.
think that just I don't think the refs. I think that was interference. Maybe the guy didn't need to do that, but I mean that's the call. So people are starting to say that Patrick Mahomes gets all of the calls, and that's why he's won 3 Super Bowls, and that's not the case. I
Well,
mean,
I'm gonna say, listen, this situation, I 100% give it to the referees on that they give it to the win to the Chiefs. 100% I do, because last couple play of the game, I didn't initially see it. People saying they did, I did not initially see it, and to me, the way that game went, there was no need for a flag, and I don't think they were gonna fight it anyways. But whatever. I mean, you know how it is. But I just think that it's always now going to be a ref's victory for the Chiefs. I don't know. I'm just one of those people that believe in that. You can argue with me on the chat on those commenting, but I don't know. I'm one of those that say that the
yeah,
refs won
well,
that game.
no, that's an okay assessment to have, but I just think Patrick Mahomes has this innate ability to
Throw the
win.
football.
I mean,
Well, yeah,
and
but he's
you
good. But
could see
there's certain
you could
situations
see
though.
but you could see how Joe Burrow how upset was, and that's why I picked Cincinnati to at least certainly make the playoffs because I think Joe Burrow is great. But now you could see what kind of a player, and this guy Jamar Chase, he cost his team 15 yards and cost them some points. So you know
Yeah.
he wants to be the highest paid wide receiver in football. He has a contract. I know you brought up the Dak Prescott, and unfortunately, that's what the market is for quarterbacks. Um, but he
Right,
didn't
but I
hold
don't
out.
think he deserved it for Dallas though to stay there. I
Well,
think that was a wrong move by Dallas.
that's what they're getting. What would be the alternative for Dallas to replace him? Who are they going to replace him with?
That's a good point too. That's a good point.
Right.
But
So
get a draft pick,
so
so
if
trade him.
if, if
I don't know.
that's your
I just don't.
alternative, and that's the rate that quarterbacks are getting, then listen, he's not going to be the highest paid quarterback for long, um,
But I'm just saying he
because
doesn't deserve.
somebody always gets a bigger contract.
I know somebody's always going to get the bigger contract, but the amount of money they gave him, I know you have to be the highest paid now, this and that, but still the highest paid, and not even a 1 year contract. It was multi-year. What has he done for Dallas? What has he done? That's what my question is. Besides losing in the first round of the playoffs,
Okay.
that's not an accomplishment. That's in my book, at least. That's not an accomplishment. Making the playoffs and losing, because it's every single year for Dallas.
Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
Fair enough. But there were a
I'll get.
couple other points that we wanted to bring up,
Go ahead.
and I'm missing
Bryce
them.
Young gets benched for Andy Dalton. We'll go to that first. The number one
Oh
QB
my God!
overall
I mean,
gets benched for Andy Dalton. I could not believe it when that announcement was made on Monday that Bryce Young will be benched.
well,
Andy
that
Dalton.
just goes to show, and we talked about this. That Carolina Panthers team, they have the worst owner in the league.
Yep.
The program is falling to pieces, right? Bryce Young he's not working out, but I mean, if you're a Carolina Panthers season ticket holder, Andy Dalton's been in this league for probably 17 years now. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not going to win you football games, so you're basically tanking with your backup quarterback. And they're not, he's going to have a couple of good games. He's going to have some ridiculous games. And you
100%.
know what? I feel kind of bad. I feel bad for this Bryce Young. And, listen, maybe it's a lot of his doing. We've always said,
Well,
certain guys, he's a Heisman Trophy winner, but it doesn't necessarily translate to the NFL. And that's what
right.
makes a bust.
And I think this is my biggest thing. I originally had the Panthers as my survivor pick for this week. I changed it to Cleveland. And the reason why I did that, because I just don't trust what was going to happen. Because if Andy Dalton were to win this game tomorrow versus the Las Vegas Raiders, that would be the biggest shock of the world. Not because the Panthers won the game, but because of Bryce Young, on how that would become the biggest bust and not the ownership really in that situation. I mean, well, technically the ownership's still in fault, but in terms of
that's
overall,
the whole
I don't know. It's a really big
the
situation.
franchise is a mess.
But
Really.
it's a big game tomorrow to watch out. I know
It
it's
is.
sad to say, but you got to watch out for that game tomorrow because it could go any direction.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
let's do our
Yep.
picks for the week,
And then
and
we'll
I know
I have some news topics to go to after.
and just so you know, I'm gunning for that crown. I want to wear that crown next week.
Okay, well, you got to win. You have to hope that I lose 4 games and you win 2 to get the tie, 3 to have the crown.
Right.
So you got some work cut out for you, Jim.
Okay. I welcome the challenge, and here we go. We got 3
Good luck.
games, and then our bonus pick.
All right.
So the 3 games I picked is Chicago at Indianapolis. And now again, I don't know if the whole Caleb Williams thing, everyone's picking the Bears. He's going to have a breakout game at some point in time. But then on the other side, you have Indianapolis, and I think the jury for me is still out on this Anthony Richardson. I mean, physically, one of the most, incredibly fit quarterbacks that there could be. I just don't think Chicago is put it together enough to understand the player that they have in Caleb Williams. They're going to have some adjustments to make, but I'm going to take, and I don't know if it's a surprise or not, but I'm going to actually take Indianapolis and thinking that they're at home, and I think they could beat Chicago in their own building with Richardson.
Wow.
Who do you got? Oh no! You know what?
No.
Let me do
I'll save for the end.
me do the pick.
Yeah, do everything first. Yeah, I like that better.
Okay. So game 2, and this is a couple of interesting. It's a couple of interesting teams in this matchup. It's Philadelphia at New Orleans, and now some people could say that the New Orleans Saints are one of the biggest early season surprises. I mean, Derek Carr. We've seen him have moments of brilliance. We've seen him have moments of not so brilliant performances over the course of time. And Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts. I've always said I'm really just not a big believer in Jalen Hurts, and I don't think Saquon Barkley is that dominant enough that he could turn this around. I'm not going to be surprised, and I don't want to just go for the home team, but Philadelphia just doesn't look like they got it all together yet. And sometimes that starts later on in the season. So believe it or not, I'm going to take New Orleans at home. And for them to beat Philadelphia this week.
Okay.
And final game, Detroit at Arizona. Now, I know some of our loyal listeners that I work give Kyler Murray more credit as a quarterback than I do. I don't think, I think he's not a team oriented guy. I think he's one of the most overpaid athletes. No questioning his athleticism. I mean, he could run and so forth. And now he's got Marvin Harrison Jr. So I can't see Detroit not winning that game. So I'm actually going to take Detroit to win on the road in Arizona because that's how unconvinced I am about Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. I just don't think they have a team.
And your bonus
I
pick?
think Detroit's going to go in there and pull that win out. And the bonus game, we got what is it, a Sunday night or Monday night?
That is a Monday night, 7:30 ESPN. There's 2 Monday night games. The second Monday night is on Monday at 8:15 on ABC. So 2 Monday nights.
All right. So one of them, and the bonus game is going to be Jacksonville at Buffalo. And again, Jacksonville is one of those teams. I don't know that Trevor Lawrence should be considered in the top 5 elite quarterbacks in this league, especially going up against Josh Allen, who I think excuse me, is most definitely top 5 quarterback in this league. He brings just a great threat of running. He's tough and he could throw the ball. And I'm going to take Buffalo at home. I really like Buffalo. And, you know, Buffalo is going to stand to, you know, we all know about the Tua situation in Miami. So that's going to hurt them going on. But I like Buffalo. I still think Buffalo, even with the injuries they have, I still think Josh Allen can carry that team. And I'd like for him to beat Jacksonville on Monday Night Football. Right.
Let's go to my picks, and we'll see some disagreements, I think, here. Bears Colts is there that we'll start off with. 1 p.m. CBS. The Colts looked really bad. The defense looked bad. Anthony Richardson was a little disappointing in the last game versus the Packers. The Bears, however, they kept it close with the Texans. They had an opportunity. They won the first game. Caleb Williams seems to be, you know, maybe the right answer for Cleveland. I mean, for Chicago. Is it the best choice? We'll see at the end of the day. But in this case, I'm going to go with the Bears beating the Colts 29-16. 29-16, the Bears. Saints Eagles, 1 p.m. Fox.
Okay.
I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints 28-26. If Philadelphia lost by a point to Atlanta and looked bad at the end, New Orleans beat Dallas. They beat Carolina. They look like the team to beat. So they are going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. So give me the Saints in that one. Lions Cardinals.
And you brought up
good.
You brought up the Philly game. You know, like that was one of those games where they snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, kind of thing, as they say.
Pretty much.
You know. Yeah.
425 Fox. Lions Cardinals. Listen, the Cardinals went in, and Marvin Harrison Jr. was the star of last week's game, 100%. And I think that was one of the biggest pickups that Arizona has had. However, you got to look at the Lions team. They just lost to Tampa Bay. I know they're going to be fighting for a win, but I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals in the upset, 32-28. And for the final game, the bonus pick, Jacksonville Buffalo, 7:30 p.m. ESPN Monday Night Football. For my lock of the week, give me the Buffalo Bills, 21-16. Buffalo has it. They're going to win the game. They're going to be on fire. They're going to be the team to beat. Jacksonville does not stand the chance against Buffalo on Monday night. And now we'll get to some NFL news. So here's some NFL news that had popped up. The Dolphins quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, is on injured reserve following Thursday's night injury. We don't know how long it will be, but that is what we were told. Chiefs signed Kareem Hunt to the practice squad. Deebo Samuel will miss a couple of games according to the 49ers. Bad news for the Chiefs. Isaiah Pacheco is expected to undergo surgery. Fibula is the reason, and will miss 6 weeks, which is some bad news, as he is a top guy for the Kansas City Chiefs on the offense.
Yeah, and I think that's really optimistic to come back from a broken fibula in 6 weeks. I don't know about that. He may be longer than that.
Anything could happen. Well, we'll see. Yeah. And Dolphins signed Tyler Huntley And a chain crew member during the Ravens game had a medical emergency during last week's game requiring CPR on the field. There's been no updates yet from the NFL, but we do hope he is doing well. And our thoughts and prayers are towards him and the family.
No, okay.
And that's it. Time now for some random points, sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. And Jim, you have some work cut out for you because you need to beat that standing start. You want that crown. So that's your goal for next week as you start random points.
Okay. Boy, when I'm sitting on top, I don't think I'm going to rub it into you like you're rubbing it into me.
Oh,
But
no, you
maybe
can do it. It's all right. I'll be okay with it.
All
But we'll see.
All right.
We'll see when the time comes. We do have another comment, multiple comments coming in here. Z Smitty, a couple questions here. I've got Jordan Love, and I don't think he'll play. Should I drop him, pick Baker, Goff, Carr, or Geno? That is, I guess, referring to fantasy here. In this case, I don't think Jordan Love will play tomorrow. I would honestly maybe bench him, and I would honestly hold on to him because he could play within the next couple weeks.
I don't think he's going to play here. I mean, that's
No,
a good. I mean, I'm guessing, and I don't do fantasy, but Mr. Smitty, the opportunity to pick up Baker, Goff, and Carr. I'm surprised they're not already on somebody else's fantasy team. But
I would honestly pick up Carr if you have no choice to drop him. Pick up Carr, but bench him. Don't start him. That's my pick. He will be back ready to go. His second question he asks is it worth dropping Alex Pierce to pick up a QB so I can keep Love? I'm trying to trade him, but nobody's biting. If Pierce has another good week, he is a great piece to have.
I honestly don't know Alec Pierce at all.
It didn't pop up to me at all. But like I said, to be honest with you, I would keep Love and bench him. But if you really want to let him go, pick up Baker. Not Baker, Derek Carr. That's my pick. If you had to let him go, pick up Derek Carr. If not, bench him because he'll be back in no time. And I do play fantasy. I'm part of the team, but not his team, but part of the group that I'm with for fantasy. And it's an exciting game to play, and you just got to be able to manage your team well.
Yeah, well, it's called amateur GM, right? Doing it for fun, right?
Absolutely. All
And
right.
listen,
Well, thank
by
you for
the
the
way,
comments, guys. We appreciate the questions.
I absolutely do too. And I do think I've been on the record. I like Jordan Love, and I think he's going to be back quicker than he is. But I will give Malik Willis credit for coming in and filling in. He didn't look that bad. And I saw
he
a
didn't.
post-game interview with him. He's a very nice kid too, like very humble.
He knows what he was doing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So good problem to have. Okay.
All right.
Couple of things. I mentioned I was going to bring up this nil thing, right? I saw this report this week that Tennessee is going to increase their ticket prices by 10% to cover the nil pool so they can pay their athletes. And I mean, is that not sticking it to the fan or what? I mean, this is a forecast of things to come. So we're going to get ticket surcharges now to fund the payment of already scholarship athletes, and I don't know. I wouldn't be happy if I was a Tennessee fan. I really would.
I would absolutely not be. No, 100% no.
Yep.
Wow.
Couple other quick things, and just they're not all tied together, but we were talking about earlier on about what kind of season Judge is having, what kind of season Ohtani. So I just took a little snapshot, and I've always brought up that one of the greatest hitters of all time was Ted Williams.
Correct.
So here's the stretch that Ted Williams had from 1941 to 1947. In 1941, he hit 406. In 1942, he won the Triple Crown.
Okay.
In 1943, 44, and 45, he was a pilot in World War II. So didn't pick up a baseball bat for 3 years, comes back in 1946, first season back, wins the MVP, and the following year in 1947, won the Triple Crown again. I mean, when you
Wow.
talk about a great year Judge is having, how about that stretch? I've always
I
had
think
the
that
thing,
just beat everything that you could possibly just imagine about sports right now. That I think that's in the history books. Wow.
right? Isn't that
Absolutely
unbelievable? It
amazing.
really is.
Wow. Absolutely.
Couple other thing, another couple of Joel Embiid signs a 3-year,
$129.
$193 million extension. And I
That's a
saw a
lot of
stat
money.
over the past 4 seasons, he's played in only 56% of his team's games. I mean, does that warrant the raise to 65 plus $1 million a year for that guy?
I guess so. I mean, wow.
Outrageous.
Oh,
We
well,
t- we thought we thought the 1 year 62 million for Steph Curry was outrageous. I think this tops it
this
all.
just
I
beat it.
mean,
I think 100% by a mile.
right? So yeah, a couple other things. So and I don't know. I thought we talked about it, Eli. So there's some players in the NFL that are opting for those guardian caps, right? And
Correct.
I think we're going to see more and more because the frequency of concussions is maybe at some point going to mandate this. I don't know, but somebody made an analogy that it looked like Gazoo from the Flintstones,
Ha!
with the helmet.
Wow.
I thought that was pretty funny. I'll give Andrew
Fun.
Caroline credit for that one. Guess what? Hockey season starts in like
A few
a
days.
couple of weeks, right? Exhibition season,
Yeah.
preseason starts. Hard to believe. Didn't we just wrap up hockey? Didn't we just
I know, and
wrap it
we're
up?
like already here. About to start NBA and hockey again and
It's
say goodbye to baseball. It's amazing.
it's the shortest off season in sports for guys that play an
Yeah.
82 game schedule or 80 games. Amazing.
Well, baseball has it shorter,
Uh,
but yeah.
and here was an interesting thing, and you're in tune with the broadcasting and all that. Adrian Wojnarowski of
Yeah.
ESPN
That was a
steps
shock.
down, and yeah, but I immediately said, wait a minute, this doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I said, but he must have gone to St. Bonaventure, and he did.
It did.
So he's made a ton of money. He's kind of passionate about that. That's a very interesting, and you know what?
Yeah.
I give the guy credit. I mean, I don't know if he could turn the St. Bonaventure Bonnies into a powerhouse basketball team, but
We'll
this is
see now.
something that the guy felt compelled that he could give up being arguably the number one NBA
Insider for the
insider,
NBA. Yeah.
right?
And just want to
Number one.
clarify, that had nothing to do with Disney and its layoffs. We know Disney planned on layoffs.
Oh yeah,
That was
no,
not
you're right.
Disney's decision. That was all Adrian Wojnarowski and took everybody by surprise. It was
Yep.
his decision, nothing to do with Disney. And by the way, Adam Schefter was still number one, regardless, when he was still in for highest paid insider for ESPN. So that's a big stat just to know of.
Yeah, there's no
Interesting.
question about it. I saw a piece on I think it was Inside Sports a couple of years ago on Schefter. The guy works 24 hours a day. He is the number one insider, but that's for NFL.
Right, for the
Wojnarowski
NFL.
was
Wojnarowski
NBA,
from
right?
NBA, but overall in the insiders of NBA. But there is no decision yet from ESPN or Disney on whether or not they will hire another insider like Wojnarowski. And maybe their decisions are just going to rely on their beat write reporters that follow the team closely. Because now what ESPN's been doing, hiring one guy or two to focus solely on each team. Like, let's say you work for the Giants, just focus on the Giants. You work for the Knicks, you work on the Knicks. And they'll go to that reporter and say that could be a possibility to save a little bit of money instead of paying so much money for an insider. So we'll see if that actually becomes a reality, and we'll watch what ESPN and Disney decide to do next.
Fair enough. And just one other
Oh, and
quick thing is,
Andrew comments, thanks, brother.
hey, we give credit where credit's due, Andrew, and I'll see you
Absolutely.
later on. But one other thing that we talked about, we remember like a month ago, just prior to the I guess what was it, the U.S. Open?
Yeah.
Rory McIlroy missed a couple of putts at the end, and you know what? I don't know if he's gotten over this because he had the same situation at the Irish Open last week. He was
Yeah.
up by 3 shots with 5 holes to go, and he bogeys, and so this could be one of those mental things that gets in the way of
Absolutely.
him even ever winning another major championship.
Yes.
All right,
All
Eli,
right.
what do you got for random?
All right. Well, I'm going to get to some thoughts and then we'll get to another comment here. We'll start off with the comment, I guess. What are your thoughts on the Jaguars and their situation right now? This is a sports talk with John Randall. I think the click, my initial thoughts on the Jaguars, they're in trouble because they have Buffalo coming up and that ain't going to be easy. I mean,
Well,
they could
you
have,
know what?
and they lost the Browns too. That didn't help the situation.
Yeah, I think JR, I think you're thinking along the same lines as me. Is Trevor Lawrence that franchise quarterback that could make the transition like a Mahomes did, like a Burrow did? And I'm not 100% sure. I'm not saying the kid's not athletic, but I think that's, if you're a Jacksonville fan, I think you have to have some cautious optimism about what kind of a player and can he get them over the hump, especially in the tough AFC. So
Absolutely.
that's my thought.
All right, let's get to some random points now. CBS and the Masters have announced the first 2 hours of the tournament's weekend, Saturday, April 12th and April 13th. Third and final rounds will be exclusive to Paramount Plus, not CBS cable
Oh
TV.
my God, you're kidding.
Which means from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, exclusive 2 hours on Paramount Plus. Then the rest of the nights, you will watch it on CBS.
Oh my God, is nothing sacred if Augusta and Channel 2, who've been covering that for 100 years, unbelievable.
Well, yeah, that's a random point for you. The Devils signed Dawson Mercer to a 3-year contract deal, which was that's amazing to see. But we just talked about Joel Embiid getting a 3-year, $192 million deal. How about this being a cheap offer? The Penguins re-signed Sidney Crosby to a 2-year, $8.7 million deal through 2026, 2027. Does that feel like nothing to you? $8
I
million?
actually, I can't believe you brought it up because I saw it and I said, this has got to be a mistake. I mean, he's still a formidable player. Yes, he's on the backside of his career, but I mean, you got guys that you've never even heard of making more money than him. That's outrageous. I can't believe he signed that contract.
Does that feel like nothing though?
Are
Because
we
I hate
sure
to
that
say-
wasn't? Are we sure that's not $8 million a season?
I know that's what ESPN was reporting. That's what ESPN had, and that they said per the year. That was their deal. That's
I
what.
think it's $8 million a season. I don't think that.
Well,
No way.
I'll confirm it again, but that was from
All
what
right.
the article said. But let
Okay.
me go. I'll do my research just to see.
Yep.
Sidney Crosby new contract, 2-year contract at $8.7 million.
Good Lord, that's four and change a season for probably a surefire Hall of Famer. Oh God.
Well,
Amazing.
I don't know. Again, shocking.
All
Nick
right.
Foligno has been named the 35th captain of the Blackhawks. The Walt Disney Company has won 60 Emmys from last weekend's award show, so congratulations to the Disney Company. And now, from an April Fool's joke to reality. I'm back on April Fool's Day, April 1st. The Empire State Building posted on social media that Rainforest Cafe would be coming to their building. It was a joke. April Fool's not coming. But now they just posted it's actually going to happen. That April Fool's joke just became reality. As October the 3rd to 6th, they'll be opening up a limited time Rainforest Cafe show, like store and dining experience on the 86th floor in the Empire State Building from October 3rd to 6th. Can you believe that? From an April Fool's joke to reality. That's amazing to see.
That is random.
That is random. For a reason. Other notes here. Big congratulations to Live with Kelly and Mark, executive in production and vice president of programming on ABC New York, Art Moore, on his retirement yesterday. Congrats on a well done career. And also, congrats to a retirement to Boston Red Sox radio announcer Joe Casalingo. He retired this week. Final notes for the day. WNBA playoffs starts tomorrow. Round 1 kicks off with some fantastic games. Atlanta, New York, 1 p.m. ESPN. Indiana, Connecticut, 3 p.m. on ABC. Phoenix, Minnesota, 5 p.m. ESPN. Seattle, Vegas, 10 p.m. ESPN. All the games will be there on ESPN and ABC, so you don't want to miss it. Game 2 will be live on Tuesday and Thursday on ESPN. Game 3, if necessary, will be on Thursday and Friday on ESPN2. So go watch some WNBA basketball. Should be exciting. And the Portland expansion team for the 15th of the league will be happening to the WNBA in 2026. So that's exciting. And go watch WNBA playoffs.
I don't know, man. I'm getting a little tired of this WNBA. I got to be honest. I don't know.
Well, it'll be a lot more exciting, and that's the whole purpose.
I don't doubt that. No question. There's very, very talented players, but I mean, because Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese joined the league, now it's must-watch TV. I don't know.
Well, Angel Reese is not
Anyway,
playing due to injury, but yeah.
Leach is
Now
on.
time for the entertainment segment sponsored by Vital Selections. Time for photos and more. Scan the QR code to learn more.
Yep. So I have one. So entertainment-wise, I got a movie, and it's Back to School. And for some reason, I've been seeing somebody's been sending me clips and so forth of, I don't know if you know who Rodney Dangerfield is, but Rodney Dangerfield was one of the funniest
No.
comedians when I was growing up, and it's actually a very funny movie. He's a multi-millionaire that goes back to college with his son. Highly recommend it. Very funny movie, without question.
All right. So this
Eli,
week,
I want this. Yeah, I got a couple of pictures, but I wanted to first.
And I have
want to
some
mention
pics too for the movie.
Yeah. So put the
Okay. I'll do let me do the pick first, and I'll do the movie pictures, if that's okay.
Yep.
So for my pick for this week, obviously a lot more TVs coming back. AGT's finale will be on Tuesday, NBC 9:00, and The Return to the Floor, my favorite new game show. It's on Fox Wednesday 9 p.m. So check that out. And sadly to say, Wheel of Fortune almost had its first millionaire of the season under Ryan Seacrest as host, but she got the puzzle wrong with so many letters there. The answer was offering some help. But so sad that we couldn't give away $1 million. But yeah.
Well, let me ask this, since you're Mr. Game Show host. What is your early review of Ryan Seacrest as the new host of Wheel of Fortune?
We talked about it last week, and I actually like him. Great replacement. But I do have one note. After the $1 million one, you have to be a little bit more sad and like shocking when you see the $1 million. You don't go and smile that, oh, it's the $1 million you lose. Like, you gotta be more into it with the contestant. Like, that was a rough moment. That's my thoughts. All right, let's get to some pictures.
Yes, and I want to preface one of them first. And that's my grandson Logan. I got to see him play last week.
Did they win?
He loves it. And look, he's wearing number 15. That's no coincidence, because he's a Patrick Mahomes guy. So proud moment for me. Unfortunately, they didn't win the game, but that happens sometimes, and you just move on and you get ready for the next week's game.
All right.
And this is an interesting one, and I wanted to give a shout out because he's a former teammate of mine. He was just awarded the Presidential Medal of from St. Joe's. He's an alumni in my class, and he's done so much for the school, and that's what people do. People that become successful, they don't forget their roots, and he's been very instrumental in helping many, many students go to St. Joe's who would normally not have the opportunity to do it. So I'm very, very proud to call him one of my dear friends, and it's just an honor, well-deserved, and he'll go into the St. Joe's Hall of Fame with former Major League Baseball player Pat Kivlahan and a couple other fellas. So Matthew Frasco, congratulations. And I know, he's a very humble guy, but, he has no choice but to accept this award because it's a reflection on him. And I wanted to say congratulations.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
Wow.
All right, Eli, we got a notable passing or two to talk about. And kind of a short list, which we always love when it's a short list.
Absolutely.
Right. And 70-year-old Tito Jackson, name may sound familiar. He was a member of a real musical pop group back in the early 70s called the Jackson 5. You may have heard of them. So I don't know if he was the oldest brother. It could have either been him or Marlon, but either way, he was 70 years old. And like I said, part of the original Jackson Five, who,
And
whether regardless of what you think of the personalities there, they were a very,
right,
very talented music
Guy
group.
Coriano said Chichi Rodriguez passed a few weeks ago.
We mentioned that 100% on notable passings, Mr. Coriano. Thank you.
All right. And finally, David Graham, voice of Parker and Grandpa Pig and Peppa Pig, sadly died at the age of 99. It's obviously the kind of kid show that many preschoolers now watch still this day. Voice of Grandpa Pig. He was 99 years old.
Okay. Eli, you never cease to amaze me. You come up with these
Look,
unique ones, for sure.
it's your notable passing. You have to honor and remember.
Absolutely.
No, guy. I don't know if even if it's a kid show. If it's popular, he made money. If it's successful, you got to mention it.
100% in agreement. But I didn't get that one. I missed it, but I'm glad you picked it up. Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Meanwhile, programming alert next week will be live at 9 a.m. instead of 10 on next week's show, Saturday, 9:28. That's because I have a St. Mary football game at 1 o'clock. So 9 o'clock next week. So don't forget to join us at 9, not 10. And also, today's the September 21st, as I mentioned at the top of the hour. Listen to Earth, Wind, and Fire's September song because it mentions the 21st of September. That's my recommendation for the day also.
Well done.
What a great show.
Young man. Great show. But again, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for all the comments. Smitty and so forth. And again, week after week, it's just gaining momentum, and we really do appreciate it. And
absolutely,
we'll see you back here next week at 9 a.m. So Eli,
9 a.m.
Have a good week.
Have a good week, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
See you guys.